So I think, again, anger is the big one there, that most people feel okay to cry and be sad. Even if they won't do it in front of people, they'll do it on their own. We don't have a stigma about sadness or crying, but we do with anger. And so we dissociate. That's the one we don't process, because we were either taught as children that it was bad, or that it makes us bad, or maybe we only associate it with the angry parent who was always explosive. But we dissociate it.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, master trainer, and weight management expert, Narado Zeco Powell. And I have an interview for you today. I have Bronwyn Schweigerdt, a psychotherapist and licensed professional with dual masters in counseling and nutrition. So you know what we're going to get in today. We're going to get into the mind. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about things that impact us, but not just about techniques and tips and tricks, because you can go online and find all those things, right? But no, we're even going to talk about how nutrition impacts your mental health, because that's a conversation that we do not have enough. And Bronwyn is going to break that down for us amongst many things. So get your healthy drink and get ready for this episode, because she has a world of knowledge that she's going to drop on us today. And that we said, Bronwyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Zeco. I would just say I used to believe that nutrition impacted mental health more in that sequence, but now I believe more that mental health actually impacts our nutrition. I think, yeah. So I can expound more on that, but I came to the place where you can try to change your nutrition, and it's not going to work permanently until you change. Well, I'm pointing here, but it's really, mental health is our whole body. It really is. So once we heal, I'll put my hand here on my heart. Once we heal us and heal our relationship to ourselves, I find that we naturally just want to self-nurture. We just naturally want to nurture ourselves and do it well. And no one has to hold us accountable.
100%, 100%. And I love that you said that, because we're definitely going to expand on that. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start off with that question, right? Since you already gave us a little intro there. So talk to my audience about the connection between nutrition and emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah. So my expertise, my specialty within the world of psychology and mental health is anger. And I really have come to believe that anger is kind of the heart of everything. Again, the heart. And, I became a therapist, a psychotherapist, from a background in nutrition. I already had my career going on. I was very happy, but I fell into a huge, huge depressive episode where I thought it was losing my mind. And I went to multiple therapists, and I remember thinking to myself while I was sitting there, even though I'm hardly functioning right now, I think I would still make a better therapist to me than this person. So I never found one that could help. So I became a therapist. That was part of my healing journey for that depressive episode. But I look back over my multiple depressive episodes, and I see that every one of those was caused really by suppressed anger, or what I call dissociated anger, where I didn't feel entitled to my own anger and to validate my own anger. Whether it was at my husband, that was round one, or at a supervisor, that was my second depressive episode, I didn't feel entitled to say, it's okay to feel betrayed right now. It's okay to acknowledge that, to feel it in my body. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm shameful. And it doesn't mean I'm going to act in ways I regret later. I can just feel it, and I can be responsible for that anger, those feelings of betrayal, by channeling them into boundaries, assertiveness, accountability, And if I had done that, looking back, I would have saved myself a lot of depression. But yeah, so when we start to really heal our relationship with our anger, I find that that is when we heal our relationship with ourselves. And I have heard from people, I've heard people tell me when that they healed their relationship with anger, they came back to life. And I will say other people just came to life maybe for the first time. And as we do that, as we heal our relationship with ourselves by advocating for ourselves, by channeling our anger out in ways that just say things like, hey, Zeco, that's not okay. It's not okay when you told me we'd meet at 2, that you showed up at 2:20 and you didn't have a reason. That's not okay. So that's not me exploding and raging, but it is me channeling my anger out in a healthy way and being responsible for it. And as I do that, that is healing, that is empowering. And the more I do that for myself, the more I'm just going to heal my relationship with myself. And I'm going to naturally want to eat food that is nurturing. I'm naturally going to want to move my body in ways that is nurturing and it's sustainable. No one has to tell me what to do. I don't have to feel guilty. I'm not feeling compulsive about it. I'm just doing it because I'm feeling more alive in my body.
So, and I love how you say that, because people might be listening and thinking, what foods can I eat to make me feel better, right? Or what foods can I eat to improve my emotional state? And again, if you go on social media, you probably find a bunch of tips and tricks and eat dark chocolate and drink this and do all this stuff, eat bitter stuff. It's going to help you out. But I agree with you 100%. I think that emotional well-being and mental well-being, it's a whole body experience. I'm going to give an example. Why do I take care of my health? Because I also have to work on my entire state, right? Sometimes I've had to pray. Sometimes I've had to meditate. Sometimes I've had to come to grips with myself and say, like you're saying, hey, Zeco, you need to work on these things. And as I started loving myself more, that's when I started, it was easier and easier and easier for me to make changes, because a lot of times we're so reactive, right? Because we're trying to find a quick fix here and a quick fix here. But when you fall in love with yourself and you want to do the best things for yourself, it's easier to say, you know what, I'm not going to eat that because I know what it's going to do for my body and I know how it makes me feel. So I love that. And I love how you put that together, which leads me to my next question then. Unprocessed emotions, right? Because I think a lot of us, you hint on it already. You talk about the nutrition piece. So let's talk then about unprocessed emotions. What is that and how does that impact us?
So I think, again, anger is the big one there, that most people feel okay to cry and be sad. Even if they won't do it in front of people, they'll do it on their own. We don't have a stigma about sadness or crying, but we do with anger. And so we dissociate. That's the one we don't process, because we were either taught as children that it was bad or that it makes us bad, or maybe we only associate it with the angry parent who was always explosive. But we dissociate it from it. And when we don't process it, so it's still there. And I always say, feelings are invisible, but it doesn't mean they're not real. And in fact, I think they are more real than this laptop I'm talking to you on. I think they're more real than this comfy chair I'm sitting on. They are so real. And just because we don't see them or know they're there, they stagnate in our body, especially the anger feeling. It stagnates, it hangs out, it kind of festers, I would say, or maybe haunts. I think that's the word, haunts us. I think our anger haunts us. It hangs out inside of us and it makes us sick. It makes us sick. And so what I see when we have not processed the anger, and again, not processed yet means I'm not angry, I'm fine. I'm just fine. Who's fine? It means just not acknowledging it, not feeling entitled to feel that because we've judged it, or not channeling it out in a healthy way. And again, channeling it out in a healthy way might be writing a fantasy letter to your boss and sharing it with a friend and getting that validation from the friend, because you're never going to get the validation from the boss. But then you take that anger that you've channeled out and then you corral it into healthy action like accountability or getting a new job or, something like that. even if we can't say what we really want to say to the boss, we can say it to someone, hopefully a therapist or hopefully a friend, who can just validate us and listen to us and say, you know what, Zeco, you have every right to be angry. I don't blame you at all. And that is how we dissipate, how it finally dissipates. It finally is expressed. It's externalized out of our body through words, through someone hearing us and validating us. What's shareable is bearable. And we can do that for ourselves as well. And I do that for myself. I'll write a fancy letter on a Google Doc for myself, and I'll just validate my feelings for myself if I can't share it with my best friend. So that's how we do that. That's how we externalize it, so it's no longer
Yes, that's powerful. So now we've talked about the connection between mental, emotional health and nutrition, right? Realizing that it goes both ways because it's a whole body health. And now we're realizing there are a lot of unprocessed emotions, and I have myself have been guilty. I think most of us in the world have been guilty of this, right? There's so many unprocessed emotions, and they come up in moments that we never even thought, like, where did that come from, right? So now we talk about that. So now we're going to talk about the things that Bronwyn actually does to help individuals to overcome these and live a better life, improve their mental and emotional state. So we're definitely going to get to that next. But before I do it, before I unwrap everything for you, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite companies. I want to talk about the Amino Co. Right? They have one of my favorite products. It's called Heal. It's 100% science-backed essential amino acid formulation designed to improve recovery times and improve physical function by accelerating muscle repair, by helping you maintain, guess what? A healthy inflammatory response. And guess what? Inflammation has an impact on your overall health. Every doctor specialist you can talk about will tell you that the role that excess inflammation plays in your health, right? And I love Heal. It has essential amino acids, it has creatine and whey protein concentrate, and that combination, the special combination of that, helps your body recover better. Boy, when I train, your boy goes hard in the paint, and Heal helps me to recover, because when you work out and you do any kind of physical activity, you're naturally creating inflammation. Inflammation isn't bad, but you need the nutrition to repair. And that's why I love Heal. Sometimes I drink it as an intro workout or post workout to help me recover. A recent clinical trial compared 1 and 2 scoops of Heal to high quality whey protein, and the response to Heal was found to be, let me see, it was 3 times larger than whey protein on a gram to gram basis. 3 times larger on a gram to gram basis. Imagine how awesome that is. So with that being said, the website is going to be in the description of the podcast. Zeco is going to be aminoco.com/Zeco Health. You click on there, you see this handsome face just smiling at you, and you get to save 30% off their wonderful products. Heal, even Perform, and their other products that I absolutely love. But that website is going to be in the description of the podcast. Now, with that being said, let's get back to the guest of the honor, because now I want to know the question of the hour. What do you do to help individuals with their unprocessed emotions and improve their emotional and mental well-being?
So I help them learn to just get in touch with their body. When someone is sharing something with me, I will say, let's pause for a minute, and I want you just to check in with your body and tell me what you're feeling. And they might say, oh, I feel tension in my shoulders. I might feel tension in my chest. A lot of people feel tension in their head. When they have that, I say, okay, I'll pretend it's you, Zeco. I want you to tell your head, hey, thank you, head. Thank you, brain, for all you do. But right now, I don't want any thinking. I don't want any strategizing. I just want to feel in my body what my body is trying to communicate to me. And then they usually feel in their body as soon as they say that. And what the next thing I'll do is I'll say, okay, it sounds like you're feeling, these heart palpitations. What does your heart want to say? What does it want to say to your father when he belittled you like that in front of the rest of the family? And then they'll put into words. I will often do what's called doubling. So I'll just put in my own words, like, oh, I bet your heart wants to say, and I'll just, go off because I can. But we just express it. We just express it. And the other thing we do, and I have all this on my podcast because I want my listeners to do this for themselves. People who will never be my therapy clients, I want them to learn it to do this for themselves. If they're feeling something, let's say it's like a pit in their stomach, I'll say, okay, I want you just to notice that sensation, just feel it, and let your mind just passively float back to the first time you ever felt that same feeling. And they will almost always come to a memory like, oh my God, I remember when I was 5 and my mom got me in trouble when I didn't even mean to hurt that bird. And, and so we'll go to like what I call an imprint memory. That's like a memory where it just kind of creates a template in our brain that says, oh, I'm shameful because I learned in that memory at age 5 that I'm shameful. And so we'll work through that memory, and I'll have their adult self speak with their 5-year-old self and tell them the truth. Well, I know mom made you feel shameful, but the truth is mom's the one who's actually shameful because that was an accident. And that's what 5-year-olds do. They make mistakes. That's what little humans do. It's what adult humans do. And there's nothing shameful about making a mistake. And we can give that shame back to mom right now because return to owner. It's her shame for not being a good mom and allowing us to be a human, right? And so we'll work through a lot of those things that way.
Powerful stuff. And I love that. I love that approach. I love that you're recognizing the problem and you're working and processing through it, because if you do not recognize the issue, you can never process your way through it. And I think with most of us, we do not recognize the issue. And I love that's where you begin. And this can be as deep as when you were 2, 3, 4 years old, right? And we've been walking around with all these unprocessed emotions and thoughts. And now that you're actually processing them through. So I love it. That's awesome. And of course, this episode could go on forever. But as she said, she has a podcast, which means now is the time for your shameless plug. Tell us, how can we get in touch? How my audience get in touch with you? What's the name of your podcast? All the information you want to give us right now.
So I would love it if everyone listened to my podcast because I spent a lot of time talking. I think I have 20 episodes now, and they're all of me talking about these kind of things. So that's like 20 hours. And I have a co-host named Katie. She's my best friend. But it's called Angry at the Right Things. So I unpack all of this about anger, shame, and then really walking the listeners through how to undo, I call it unlearn, these things that we learned in our childhood. Unlearn all the unlearning we need to do about ourselves being shameful, about our anger being dangerous or evil, or making us bad, and so a lot of unlearning. It's very experiential. And then just talking about how to fight off that depression by just connecting with our inner child and channeling out that anger in healthy ways. And that would be the same for anxiety because they're all the same. And then just being physically healthy, because suppressed anger also makes us physically sick. I believe it can cause autoimmune disorders. I believe it causes a lot of migraines. I believe it causes a lot of insomnia. I personally have had many, many years of that, and a lot of GI problems. So yeah, let's get healthy the holistic way by learning how to be angry at the right things and what to do with our anger.
Perfect. And I will make sure I'll put a link to our podcast in the show notes, which is going to be in the description of the podcast as well, because I am a nice guy, right? Well, sometimes at least. But the show notes are going to be zecohealth.com/angry thoughts. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there, right? Because that's what we're going to overcome. We're going to overcome these angry thoughts. So, Bronwyn, thank you for being on the show. Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. Go out there and love your world.